Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The reality is, we like it here in the UK. I don't care what people say. They might go on, Britain has been good for Muslims.
You actually ever approach for help? Or?
I did, yeah. I was asking the staff at the mosque if they could help me in any way, and they weren't really that helpful.
Especially with the older kind of community, they think, well, you're living in England, it's a benefit state, and nobody goes hungry in England, But we know that's not true.
In the UK is a kind of really big problem. You've got to look at, for example, in urban areas, 50% of children in Birmingham are below the poverty line.
At times, nearly 50% of our 800 prison population, 50% were people of Muslim background. We can't say these individuals are not from our community, which tends to be, oh, they got nothing to do with us. No, they are from Muslim families. They are often from good Muslim families. And, the reality is that these are challenges that we need to be dealing with head on.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to tonight's show of Real Talking. We are a show that discusses real issues that have an impact on the growing British population, and every week we'll be addressing these topics. I am Noorjan Khatun, your host for tonight, and inshallah ta'ala tonight we'll be discussing fitness within the community. Now, we're a population in the UK that has grown significantly in the last 10 years, and now we represent 5% of the overall population in the UK, which makes us the largest ethnic minority group, and those concentration of the largest Muslim population is within London and Birmingham. Now, with that comes its own set of challenges, and one of those challenges, as it's been illustrated on the census data of 2011, is poor health and general well-being. Now, communities are growing fast. However, along with that, a combination of unemployment, poor housing, many of whom living in relative poverty, is just a type of recipe that only infuels poor health and well-being. Now, for many Muslim women, religious beliefs and values give meaning to the ways in which they approach their life. And in general, Islam promotes good health and fitness and encourages both men and women to physically engage in mental lifestyles. So tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we will be looking at how one community in the UK has come together to not only tackle and provide fitness classes within the community, but also at the same time to help a group of group members within the community who are in need.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I am also your host tonight, Shaz Mania, and our guests tonight are sisters Malaika, Helen and Taiba, and they have an organisation called Sisters in the Community based in Nottingham. This support group has recognised a need for sisters in our community to get fit, active and play a role in helping to take care of their own well-being. Now, assalamu alaikum sisters, and welcome to the show. So could you just explain to our viewers at home about Sisters in the Community, what you do, and about your own personal journey in setting up this, wonderful organisation, inshallah?
Of course. We set up around 18 months ago, and it initially began just as a social gathering. We thought there was a need for revert sisters to have a social gathering. There were plenty of Quran classes and activities for sisters to do, but when it came to, we found that when sisters embrace Islam, you have friends, you have social activities, and they change, and with that change, isolation, vulnerability, and quite often depression can come to
It's true, and
sisters.
I think because we work, at Amira Foundation, we have a revert support program. When people talk about revert and their needs, they often, Quran, you must learn how to pray, you must learn how to dress, you must learn, and it's always, you have to do this, you have to do this. But people don't actually understand what a lonely and isolated experience it can actually become, because you suddenly, can't interact, or you're made to feel that you can't interact with your existing friends and your social circle. So, it's really good. So how did you actually promote, how did you get people to come across the work that you're doing?
Well, basically, we set up a group on Facebook, Muslima Convert Connections, And we just approached people in the local community. We carried cards with all our information on them, phone numbers, and you know, took it from there basically.
And Helen, can I just ask you, I believe you were one of the first few sisters that actually joined this particular group. How did your own journey bring you to sisters in the community? I
was very isolated and decided to go for a talk at the masjid one day, and that's where I met Malaika. And she had just started up the group and was taking small steps, and you know, invited me to coffee mornings, and you know, we just hit it off, and it was really, you know, very much a social aspect that I was lacking. It's all right going for classes and learning the very early basics of Salah, but we just felt a little bit isolated, and partly within the community itself, within the Muslim community. So, you know, it was a really good time.
And can I just ask, prior to meeting Sister Malaika in the masjid, had you been a Viva for long, or was it you were a newly Viva and you found it a struggle, or had you been lonely, felt lonely for quite a significant amount of time?
I wasn't a new Reaver, but I was very isolated. You know, I'm a single parent and had no Muslim family, and sometimes a little bit of shyness comes into it, you know, and not knowing where to go to and who to approach. So, you know, it just came at a really good time.
Okay, inshallah. Now, viewers, there's currently very little statistical data available that shows the physical activity participation by different religious groups. However, with respect to Muslim participation rates, by ethnicity is always the nearest thing that usually organisations can collect data on, and that closest is what has been recorded in the census 2001 data. It was last recorded and analysed by a group of people, showed over 90% of people in Pakistan and Muslims and Bangladeshis were from the Muslim faith who were lacking participation in sports. Now obviously, though people from other ethnic groups also follow Islam, among ethnic minority communities participation is well below the national average, where only 12.5% of Asian women do enough exercise each week to benefit their well-being and health, as compared to 18.8% of women, as compared to white women. Now, this clearly demonstrates that there is a need for a specific intervention to be developed to ensure Muslim women specifically have the opportunities to participate in sports and physical activity, and also gain all the other associated benefits about being active and what that brings into somebody's lifestyle. And something that I touched at the beginning of the show when I mentioned the introduction around that we are a very large portion of the community within the UK, and the fact that poor health isn't a singular problem, it's connected with, and Shaz, we've spoken about this on our previous shows in the past, we've covered different topics where when unemployment rate amongst Muslim communities is higher than the national average. Also the fact that poor housing and living in cramped housing situation isn't helping families and generally well-being. And then on top of all of that, the fact that 60% of Muslims within that 5% live in relative poverty. Now, can I just come back to you, both your sisters, now, just to ask, like I know you mentioned how, and yourself, Helen, how there was the social aspect that was lacking. So I'm trying to connect the fitness aspect that was then developed. So what did you see, not just amongst Vivas, but generally amongst the Muslim community and the women specifically, that was lacking, that then brought about this kickboxing classes that you've now recently started as well?
We found that women, all women, not, like you say, not just revert sisters, didn't have anywhere to go. Sometimes they didn't want to go to the gym because it was a mixed area, and even if it was women only, there were still men around, and some women felt really uncomfortable with that, and the clothes that you wear to feel comfortable training was another issue. So we thought we'd find something that women would find fun, make it something social so they could get together, meet other women, get fit, and we put a little bit of self-defence in as well, because we thought that's quite important nowadays, that women have that safety aspect. So we tried to cover a variety of things with the one class, and I think we've managed that.
So did you get a qualified instructor and the premises?
We put feelers out basically, asking what people wanted to do, what sports were they interested in, just basics like time and dates, that would be suitable. And then we approached a female instructor, and we took it from there.
So how is this funded? Do you provide it? Do the women pay? How do you do it?
We do pay.
We do, yeah. So the ladies pay for the class, and we use that money to pay for the room hire. We actually have the classes in a school hall, so we pay them. And we are currently self-funding, so we manage by whatever funding we can get. Sometimes we'll have different activities to raise money.
Because I understand, because you do quite a few different activities. Do you want to talk about some of the other activities that you actually also do?
Yeah, we've done different activities. We've did beauty day, beauty spa day, pampering sessions. We've had people come in to give us talks on ruqya. We did a car bootless sale that was very successful. And organised at very short space of time. So
we try to involve everybody in the community, but what we don't want, fundamentally we're there for revert sisters, that's how we started, but we don't want to be segregated.
Which is often good, isn't it? Rather than having the pigeonhole, born Muslims, revert Muslims.
We saw there was a need, but in supporting that need, we don't want to be putting barriers up either, so we have to be careful that we get the right balance with that.
Definitely.
Can I just ask, just follow up on that, the take-up within Revert Sisters, was that did that need a lot of encouragement, or were they quite keen, or was the financial aspect just a barrier because it cost X amount of money?
I think a lot of people were quite keen because it was a new kind of thing for Nottingham. There's very few ladies-only gyms, and everyone doesn't want to be going for these fitness aerobics classes. So, people were very open to the idea. And
whilst I was doing research for this show, there was a report back in 2004 that I found that conducted by the Health Service for England, and it was saying how lower levels of participation inevitably has negative health implications, and it confirmed greater levels of ill when reported against other ethnic groups as compared to Muslims. Again, that's a striking piece of information that I came across. And the report further went on to say, our viewers, how participation in sport is one of the best ways, excellent way to prevent measures for many diseases out there, and also to play an important role in treatment and to foster those sort of changes in participation habits. The earlier the better, they have said, and getting young girls involved in participating in the sports is crucial, so that they can continue that when they go into the adulthood. But also, interestingly enough, this government report also was saying how service providers should more consider using sport as a mechanism for promoting good, healthy lifestyles within the communities, and in addition, for sport providers to also consider how to design their services in order to appeal to Muslim women, and hopefully that will change some of the attitudes that Muslim women currently have towards sports and participation, and if their needs are taken into consideration and looking at the sensitivity aspects of it, which I found to be quite interesting. That report said that.
Yeah, definitely. So can I just ask you, ladies, and what kind of obstacles did you actually come across? What kind of things in terms of accessing your service? I mean, you touched a little while ago on being a single parent. I know with some of the activities that we put on at Amira Foundation, we have to, lots of women want to do lots of sort of activities. However, if you're a single parent with a preschool child, if there's no childcare involved, you can't access those services no matter how much you want. Again, with a revert who has no family, perhaps no friends, that will be able to help with the childcare. So, I mean, what kind of obstacles did you guys face?
Well, we had the facility of a local community centre, and had a play area, so people were more than welcome to bring their children along to the events. So again, it was good for the children to be mixing. From my perspective, it's good for my daughter to be mixing with other Muslim children, because there's no one else in the family that is. So we had the community centre.
It's a good place. We've been really lucky to actually have the place.
Definitely.
They've been very supportive of what we do.
Yeah, we've also done fun activity days, you know, like we took them to amusement parks Wheelgate Park and things like that. So, you know, just trying to make it an all-round kind of thing so all the family can come and enjoy the days.
Well, yeah, and I think you have to do that. You've got to cater for the whole family, because otherwise women are not going to be coming. So aside from that, have you guys had any other obstacles that you've had to overcome?
Any negative, because I'm more interested in learning about maybe any of the negative attitude that you may have had from the wider Muslim community, maybe from the male side of the community or families, or
families, definitely. Okay. I think families, from myself and a lot of the ladies that I speak to, even if the families are accepting, they still quite often find it very difficult, because it's a very big change when you become Muslim, and as I touched on earlier, the social aspect is different. We dress differently, and I like to think we're an improved version of ourselves, but our families, because they see a change, so if you're doing something in the community, it's very difficult to get families involved, your own non-Muslim family, and sometimes the Muslim community, with the utmost respect, doesn't always understand our needs, and so it'd be lovely to try and find a way to bring all of that together, so that, you know, the readers have the support from everybody.
Definitely, and from like an Islamic perspective, and you know, the way that Prophet ﷺ did it, the Ansar, the Muhajirun, made them brothers unto one another, really fostered deep brotherhood, sisterhood between you know, existing Muslim communities and people who had newly become Muslim, taking all of this social aspect into account, which is something, you know, we can testify through our own work. People don't, because everybody is there. When you take Shahada, there's like 500 Muslims ready to hug you. Allahu Akbar. They all want to hug you, and they're genuinely really happy.
They are heartfelt.
But they all walk away. And nobody actually thinks, and everybody, and you know, and so many times, you know, in speaking to new Muslims, and I can identify with it myself, because I came from a very secular family, not you know, I didn't grow up with Islam or as a Muslim identity. And again, people, just everybody wants to tell you, these are the laws, the do's, the don'ts, and it's constant, whereas they don't actually give you, you know, you're completely changing everything around you. So,
I think we've got a caller online. I think she's a sister. Assalamu alaikum, sister, are you on the call?
Walaikum salam, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, sister, can I ask your name?
Amina.
Amina, assalamu alaikum, Amina. Thank you very much for calling in. I mean, if you can share some of your experience of how you and what your journey was involved in terms of you getting involved with sisters in the community, please.
Well, we kind of met up. We was having, I think one of the first meetings I went to was where we had like a pamper day, a pamper session, and that was really good, because obviously when you become a Muslim, sometimes you find these things difficult to go to open salons and things like that. So it was really nice to be able to have a massage, head massage, facials and things like that. So it was really nice. That was one of the first ones I really remember.
And did you know of sisters in the community before that, or once you met Sister Malaika and Helen, for example, was it then that you got to know about the fitness classes?
I think it was through the group that I met the sisters.
Okay.
It was through the group that I've met all of the sisters. Alhamdulillah.
And how has this particular support group supported you, and has it benefited you in your own personal capacity?
I feel that the group's been there, you know, we're able to talk to some of the sisters on a personal level, with things that's just your normal day-to-day life. But it's really helped with confidence to go out there and do other things and try new things.
So what about the fitness classes? How have you found those?
Oh, they were brilliant. I really enjoyed that last week. It was great fun. It was nice to, again, be in a ladies-only environment, and be able to do things that everybody says, we can't do this, we can't do that, but actually we can, as long as it's in a good environment, and the sisters are providing that, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, it sounds like you're really enjoying those. So Any messages to any other sisters in Nottingham that you would like to pass on?
I'd just love them to just come out and give it a try, because, you know, it's a great bunch of sisters. We have fun, and just come and meet us.
Mashallah, I'm tempted to go along myself. I think for the next one, it does. You know, it's not Nottingham's not too far from Birmingham, is it?
No, not really.
Well, inshallah, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for taking the time and calling in today and supporting this wonderful work. Thank you, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
alaikum.
So you've had some really good positive testimony there, and she genuinely sounded so happy to actually be involved with this and share that with us. So, you know, well done, mashallah, you guys are doing a great job.
I was going to say, you know, in London, being a Londoner myself, there's a lot of services out there for women's only sessions, women only gyms. There's a lot of them popping up nowadays as compared to 15, 20 years ago. And I think being from a smaller city, it must be a lot harder to find those sort of services. So the fact that you've been able to set something up like that, overall, if you look at the process, just to encourage sisters who are watching the show tonight, what could you say to them about how easy or how not so easy it might be to set it up? I'm hoping it's quite a simple thing, but it sounds as though you started with a few committed members coming together, making this happen.
That's the key.
So what kind of encouraging things would you be able to say to our viewers, to if any woman out there that's watching tonight, to who has an inkling, actually maybe I can do one of these and start something up in my own locality?
It is easy to start up. Obviously, anything that you start will have certain stepping stones, finding a venue. As you said, committed sisters. There has to be the commitment, there has to be the passion, and to stick with it with the longevity, because it's not an overnight thing, and it's worth it. It's, you know, it's hard work, but it's worth it. The benefits are there, and it's a way to get fit, meet friends, and enjoy yourself. We had a really good giggle. I mean, we were supposed to be serious doing the kickboxing, but we also spent a lot of the time laughing as well. So.
Which is excellent, isn't it? Again, it takes people out of that isolation, and it's building and making new friends and getting out of your routine at the same time as getting fit and healthy.
Levels as well. So whatever level you're at, you're very welcome to come along. There's something for you within the group.
And can you share with us, the viewers, that Facebook group that you mentioned in the beginning, Helen, of how if sisters want to learn more about it? Can you just mention that name again?
It's Muslima Convert Connections.
It's Muslima Convert Connections. So, inshallah, viewers, if you do want to find out on Facebook, inshallah, there's a support group. And can I just ask, can we touch on how effective is that Facebook support group itself to our sisters?
Very. We're Nottingham based, but the sisters we support, we've supported sisters in London. We've driven to Halifax to support a sister in a custody case. We're there for all sisters.
When we say support, do we mean support in terms of the difficult times of change and loneliness that Aviva sisters going through? Is just for you, just be specific.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, she had no one to support her to be there, and even though we live quite a long way away, we thought it was worth the drive. That if she didn't have anybody, then we would be that somebody for her. And she was quite vulnerable because she was fighting a custody case with her husband, and she didn't have any money, she didn't have any family. Her family live in New York, and so we just did our best. We're not professionals, but
it's just humanity.
That's it.
It's just humanity, isn't it?
It's nice to have a body standing beside you sometimes, just going through it.
Definitely, yeah.
And like you said, that's been quite popular. Do you do any signposting at all?
We do, yes, and that's something that we're actually trying to become more knowledgeable about ourselves, because the longer we do the Facebook page, the more we come across, so the more we need to be knowledgeable, so that we are responsible for where we signpost people.
And do you provide any telephone support? Just out of curiosity, I'm asking.
We do have a telephone number, and we have offered that support, and it's not actually where we get the most contact. We thought it would be, but it tends to be the Facebook page, emails.
Sometimes it makes it easier for people as well.
I think it keeps them their identity a little bit.
Yeah, which is something that, you know, they're probably carrying a whole load of shame and guilt and all sorts that's been put upon them. I think it's absolutely amazing.
It is.
It's just, you know,
we set up a pen pal scheme as well.
I just think it's amazing what you're doing, and it's, you know, women come out regardless, you know, because obviously with the work that we do, 2 women a week are killed and 230 turned away every single day. But, you know, women coming forward and saying, you know, for the sake of humanity and sisterhood, this is, what we're offering, and like you said, just having somebody there makes a difference.
Okay, viewers, we're going to be going to our break now, inshallah. So please do join us after the break, where we continue to talk about fitness in the community. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the second part of tonight's show, Real Talking. Real Talking is a show where every week we discuss a pressing topic that affects the growing British community within the UK. And tonight's show, the topic we're discussing is fitness in the community. Alhamdulillah, we've had two guests in the first half of the show who have set up a group called Sisters in the Community, where they not only provide support for revert sisters, but also they've started a fitness class, specifically kickboxing, to help bring together those sisters together to not only increase their well-being and fitness, but also provide a social aspect to that. Now, in comparison between Muslims, women's attitude towards sports and their participation as compared to different countries around the world, traditionally Muslim countries' attitude actually are far more positive around physical education and well-being as compared in the UK. Now, young Muslim women within the UK seem to have very negative views, research has found, with regard to physical activity and participation. Now, research that has been conducted in this area have shown that Muslim girls in the school environment demonstrate that girls were not participating as much as they should have been. Research has also found for those sisters who have newly become practicing or have newly embraced Islam, feel that as a sense of guilt or as a sense of discrimination or fear of the wider community and cultural aspects of embracing Islam, are not participating within sports itself. Now, more and more, as compared to 20 odd years ago, there are more women-only sessions that are being made available, and we as a community who are growing have been benefiting from culturally sensitive classes that are being offered up and down the country. And we were discussing, Shaz, in the first half of the show, how even, for example, physical participation in sports, where they used to be the burkini, for example, there's more things being done in terms of trying to cater for those Muslim women of that society. Now, Muslim women's attitude towards sport inevitably are affected by a lack of role models, and inshallah Shaz will discuss that a little bit later on in the show. However, in recent years though, this has started to change in terms of Muslim women participating in athletics, in particularly during the Olympic Games, and we've seen that all across our TVs and on social media. Although none of these women were from the UK, inshallah it does still demonstrate to young Muslim girls around the country that wearing the hijab, i.e. the headscarf, is not and should not become an obstacle in terms of participating and benefiting from physical activity and sports, and to celebrate and to promote these positive images to help develop the particular positive attitude towards sports.
Assalamu alaikum. As well as a lack of role models, family expectations about the role of young women have an impact on participation. A study carried out by Loughborough University in 2006 revealed extensive parental influence on a young woman's involvement in sport and over their lives as a whole. It highlighted the extent to which young Muslim women navigated between their family identity and the experiences they were exposed to on a day-to-day basis. Now, sports deliverers should consider the importance of getting family buy-in for female participation when developing these programs. We're going to be joined now by another guest. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Taiba. Welcome to the show, and taking the time out to share your experiences with us. I mean, would you like to share with us and our viewers, how you got involved, what this group has done for you, and the level of participation that you get involved with, inshallah?
Well, I first got involved before I reverted, actually. I was at an event, it was a monthly meal, and because I am a single parent and my daughter is Muslim and I wanted her to bring her up the right way, I just wanted to kind of meet a lot more kind of Muslims, and I got past Sister Malaika's number, and it was just, well, we found out that we lived literally on the same road. So she's been a great support and kind of helped me kind of guide through the process. It wasn't me at the time, I wasn't thinking about myself, it was more I wanted knowledge for my daughter, but then came to me taking my Shahada. So,
oh, mashallah.
Yeah.
So
but it has
the support.
Yeah, the support's been amazing. I know that I can call Malaika up because I see her as well. She's my mentor. So I can call her up at any time and, you know, I can ask anything and know that she's going to pick up and she's going to kind of help me.
And help you and give you that one-to-one support and that sisterhood, isn't it? And being there for you. So what about the fitness class? Because I know you were quite physically active before you became a Muslim.
Yeah.
Did you want to share some of those experiences with us?
Well, at the beginning, before I reverted, I trained literally probably 4 or 5 times a week. So I was training quite a lot. I loved my fitness. But then when I decided, I felt that once I put the headscarf on, it was quite hard because it was a mixed session at kickboxing. I felt that, you know, I didn't feel comfortable. So when Malaika had the idea of kickboxing, obviously I was one of the first ones in line. I was ready. I think I was there ready before it started.
That's good. So it enabled you to continue with something from your previous life, as people refer to it, and then, you know, your new life as living as a Muslim now.
It's like I said, it's obviously it's a social aspect, but it's also, you know, it just helps you meet other people and kind of, you know, you kind of, I think when you revert and you do become isolated, like once I'm in that house, I'm at home and I'm alone. But when I'm out, you know, kickboxing and training, I'm not alone and there's other people there that I can talk to. So
you said really you became involved with the group before you became a Muslim. So was there a period of time for you that once you became Muslim, because I'm really interested just to explore this with amongst ourselves and also with our viewers, so that people really understand. You became involved with this group and then you became Muslim. So was there a period of time for you, because we keep talking about isolation, especially for reverts. Did you go through that isolation despite being part of this group?
I know that I've got a lot of support, but I suppose I do. Once I'm at home and, like I say, when the door's closed, I do feel isolated because we do not live in an Asian community. I live on the outskirts of Nottingham, so you do kind of feel alone. But I just feel, you know, I know. Was
that loneliness and that isolation not there or not prevalent when you were?
Yeah, it was there. It was there.
It was there. Okay. I just thought, because, you know,
no, I think, but even though it was there before, I think the fact that Sister Taiba's been physically active regularly and 4 times a week is quite excessive.
Which would take you out of the house,
But it's good. But I think because you kept yourself busy that way, then when you embrace Islam, alhamdulillah, you felt that
there's changes,
how do I go about that with the hijab, the headscarf, that feels a little bit more difficult to do that than you met obviously Sister Malaika.
Yeah, I suppose it is annoying for, you know, because like I said, you have to change certain things. So to me, someone, you know, realising I can't go and train 4 or 5 times a day and, you know, and mixed, or if I do, you know, it would be the headscarf, and it just kind of, it put me off, you know, and to be honest, you want to do the right thing. You don't, you're scared of messing things up. So you try and do the right things, but then I love training, so it kind of depressed me a little bit.
But do you think, I'm going to just throw something in the mix here, do you think that we overthink this particular point too much in terms of worrying about if I'm going to mess it up, and, you know, and who makes those sort of rules, and that's something that bugs me quite a lot, Shaz, sometimes.
It really does, because we have such a narrow view. And as you get older, I know certainly with me, I was just exploring this with a friend of mine a few days ago. We get into this whole thing of what is right and what is wrong, and we suddenly are like a blueprint of the ideal Muslimah. You know, these manuals of you must, and everybody, it's literally like Stepford Wives, isn't it? Every single Muslim woman must conform to a certain standard, and we must behave like this. But the very fact that we have hijab, and we have, you know, at the time the Prophet ﷺ, the women, they were riding horses, they were part of the battles, you know, actively involved in you know, building of Medina, the migration, and things like this, and also in terms of education and being scholarly. It seems there were no limitations on women then, but now, you know, you've used those words, I wanted to be seen to be doing the right thing, I didn't want to mess it up. And we all have this. I remember when I started to practice, I literally got rid of all of my clothes. I got rid of every single, you know, even I went through a phase I was reading maybe like 5 or 7 books a week, and they were all, you know, Islamic books. I've always loved to read. I wouldn't read anything else, and just, you know, everything that I was doing. And I remember, you know, something for about, I look back at it now, for something like 6.5 years, I would pray my prayers and my salat bang on time. If Asr started at 2:57, I was working on a stockbroking trading floor at the time. If it started at that time, I had to pray at that time, because I thought, what if I die? And I would literally catch a cab from one end of city centre to the other end of city centre, so that I could pray on time. And you become so rigid, don't you? And everybody around you, it's all these limitations.
My point I was trying to make is not necessarily regarding to salah as such, but I think if you were training 4 times a week, Taiba, for example, and maybe there's not a women-only session in the gym or women-only gym, but it doesn't stop you from maybe being creative and doing something else, maybe walking for an hour outside or getting active in the park with your hijab on and wearing loose-fitting clothing to jog around the park, for example, or something along those lines within daylight. Can you see that? And I think, for me, this is the bugbear, I think generally sisters, you know, whether they're Viva or not, just need to think maybe a little bit more outside the box, be a bit more creative. And because we may become more practicing, or we may embrace Islam, I don't think that should be a barrier in any way.
It's like a given, and it's like a whole community barrier though, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about barriers, and I just, you know, I have this little piece of research here. Barriers facing Muslim women's participation in sport. Now, I think, you know, when I was looking through this list, and it's interesting we're having this conversation now, I was looking through this and I was like, well, surely we can overcome all of these. Just to read some of these out to you: dress code, you know, and what to wear. But there's lots of things, even going swimming now, you know, the burkini, they are fully covered, and they even come with, you know, the little hats and stuff. And I know that I often will wear mine, and it doesn't limit us. But facilities, you know, where we can actually, a lot of people won't go certain places because of the facilities. And, you know, just reading this out to you, facilities need to be clean and water available to thoroughly wash after using the WC. But, you know, Muslims, we always carry a little bottle around with us, don't we? So should that be a barrier? And this one's interesting because I do agree with it. Lack of role models. We do need to have more, you know, women role models. Right. Inshallah, some people watching this today will see you guys as the role models you obviously are. We mentioned a little bit earlier, but parental approval for women. It's interesting, we both had a discussion this morning on our way in. I wasn't allowed to ride a bike when I was growing up because girls don't. That's literally what my parents said to me. My sister's 4 years younger than me, but obviously by her time girls could, because she can ride a bike, but I can't because, you know, girls couldn't. But parental approval.
Have you learnt since?
I actually haven't learned how to ride a bike, but I wasn't allowed to play in the brass band either. I haven't gone back to that, so yeah. Transport, you know, women need to have, you know, accessibility, and it's also, you know, what times these are going to be out. The social side of things, women won't go into a gym, for example, if the gym serves alcohol in their bar. Communication, sometimes, you know, language can be a barrier. Lack of women-only sessions, you know, we've all touched upon this. I know I used to go to the gym every single morning before I used to go to work, but then you go through this phase of if there's women-only sessions or it's a women-only gym, which is on the same site as a mixed gym, then male staff do often walk through, which leaves us feeling uncomfortable. And really, we want to be training or you know, using the machines and stuff without our headscarf because it can get very hot. But when you've got men coming through, that becomes a barrier then. Childcare, socioeconomic differences, and if people are able to afford this, the time if it's available at times when children are at school or before it gets too late. Employment, environment, you know, does it have safe lighting and things, and information? Is there enough information at schools and mosques? I mean, a lot of these things that we deem as barriers, just reading them out, surely we can overcome these.
Well, I don't see any of them a barrier personally, unless childcare may be an issue. But just to end on that, I believe we've got a second caller on the line. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Do we have the caller online?
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum. I believe we've got Sister Janet on the phone.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, sister. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for calling in. I believe you've been involved in sisters in the community, and it would be interesting for us as well as our viewers to learn about your particular involvement with the group, how it may have benefited you, and your journey, please, if you don't mind.
Oh, well, it's been very helpful. It is something I think that's necessary in the community. It's just nice to have sisters who are local, who I can ring any time, who I can meet, who I can just chat to, you know, just a social group. Because you do get isolated. I mean, I'm in my 70s now, and you know, I converted to Islam about 10 years ago, I think it is, and there is this feeling of isolation, because I mean, there's other Muslims around, but they're into their own culture. There's a lot of cultural differences that you find difficult to cope with, and they get, you know, difficulties with other people from a different culture. So it's been very good to get to know people in my local area that I can relate to, I can talk to, that have faced the same kind of difficulties that I've faced, you know, and to just compare notes, really. So it's mainly social issues, I think, just being able to discuss difficulties.
That sounds amazing.
Experiences.
So do you get involved with the fitness classes as well?
Classes, well, I've gone to, I have been to one or two talks and things that the sisters have organised, but I have been to Arabic courses at the Islamic Foundation, and I like going there because I can stay overnight. You know, there's no travelling involved. But, so I do like having the Islamic Foundation, but that's not really local, you know, it's quite difficult to get there. So it's nice to have both. It's nice to know that the foundation's there and I can go and stay and meet people from further afield. But it's very nice to have local people who know a lot about my background and things like that. And people I can turn to if I've got any problems. There's always somebody there to listen. And we do arrange little social outings and groups, so it's been very beneficial. Yes, I really value it a lot.
Well, it sounds absolutely amazing. It sounds like the sisters are doing, you know, an amazing job, and I would encourage anybody from Nottingham to, you know, please support these sisters and support the amazing work that they're actually doing. And if you do feel that you can access their services and may benefit from them, then do go onto the website.
Yes, yeah, it is easy. They're very welcoming, very, very easy to relate to, and very. They make everybody welcome, you know, and even people who are thinking about, you know, taking the Shahada, or non-Muslims, friends of people who have taken the Shahada and converted. It's a very welcoming group, so you know, there's no need to be fearful or anything. You know, it's just we've had some really nice, pleasant outings and get-togethers. So
okay, well, it seems like you're really enjoying the different services, and it seems also that there's a variety of services that are being put together.
Yeah, I mean, there's different age groups, and people bring the children, and there's trying to arrange things for different, you know, different interests and things like that. And it's really nice to get to know other people in the area.
Mashallah, it just sounds really good. Well, Jazakallah Khair, sister, for taking the time and calling in today and sharing your experiences and letting us all know about the wonderful work that sisters in the community are doing. Jazakallah Khair, and thank you for joining us. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
We've just heard from mashallah, she's in her 70s, particular sister.
75.
And
Yes.
75 even.
Yeah,
SubhanAllah. So it just goes to show how
Yes.
beneficial and how much of a lifeline and that's the way, I think that's the only way I can describe it, is providing a lifeline to many sisters.
She was mentioning lots of different things that she's actually doing and what she actually, you know, values and gets out from there. So
We value her too. She's taught me to knit, so...
Oh, mashallah.
yeah, mashallah. It's like it's like a family, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, the more I'm listening to and what you're actually offering is like a family. It's like a community within, I suppose, a greater Nottingham community that you guys are fostering and putting together.
There was one sister that needed medicine, so we kind of got in the car and we went and travelled and gave her the, you know, provided her with the medicine that she needed. So it's just kind of just getting all together, the family.
Food parcels.
Yeah.
Had to take food parcels.
And take food parcels, and then this is what this is
when we can. I think that's where that's the barrier we come across. We don't have funding, and we can only do so much. So that's what we're looking at doing next, trying to get some kind of funding so we can do more of what we do on a larger scale.
And it will come. Inshallah, it will come. It will come because you guys, you know, you're doing such an amazing job with limited resources, and everything starts with an intention, doesn't it?
Yes.
And Allah will make it easy for you, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, definitely.
But going back to my research I was doing for this show, you know, we spoke about, I mentioned one of the government reports for the health survey for England back in 2004. They mentioned within that report how maybe service providers can start providing sensitive programs that will cater for Muslim women within the community. And I'm just thinking about when service providers and or those who want to set up their own programs or support groups or fitness classes out there, when you're designing programs for Muslim women, there's this thing within the government, one of the white papers that I read, they mentioned about developing a positive action initiative which increases the profile to reflect the need for healthy well-being within the community, and sport and physical activity providers need to start respecting their religious differences. Now this is obviously especially important, our viewers, for Muslim women, as they are often overlooked by providers, and on some ground and in some cases, not every case, but some cases, are discriminated against because of the religion. I think me being from East London, I can definitely vouch to say that because the area is, you know, overwhelmingly populated by Muslims, a lot of the gyms and the leisure centres and services that are available are much more catering for Muslim women. Now, some of the things that anybody out there, if you are part of a gym or a service provider, maybe to consider when designing some programs to include Muslim women and their sensitivities, and to encourage volunteers maybe from the Muslim community to get involved. So people who are thinking, should I not, that might be that final push that they get, to ensure action is taken if somebody is discriminated against and or stereotyped, to ensure male participants and coaches do not accidentally walk in across a gym or hall when classes are taking place for women only. However, Islam does require certain practices and procedures to be followed, and obviously, you know, we will say from this show, please follow those as much as you possibly can, and being respectful across the board. Make sure changing rooms, showering facilities and toilet facilities are safe and are within private environments, inshallah. To have very clearly labelled signs on the doors to show other people within that vicinity that it's a women-only sessions. Cameras should be turned off if there are cameras or CCTV within the environment. To try to encourage and maybe get a petition or a lobby to get women's only sessions happening within your locality. Ensuring that more female staff are available. Having experienced women who maybe been involved in sports and physical activity, inshallah. Highlight the fact that certain sessions are intended to provide women's only session, and that the gym or the service provider has gone out their way to provide that. So then it's worth encouraging women to go, but otherwise it'd be a wasted effort. To use positive imagery when you're encouraging sport, inshallah. To allow a wide range of clothing choice, and to communicate that, I think, to generally the community as well as to those who are attending, and to identify maybe positive role models that we touched on earlier on in the show, inshallah, and advertise where mothers and mums would be, like play groups or after school or somewhere on the gates, handing out flyers, inshallah. So our viewers, inshallah, this program has been around fitness within the community, and there's been two aspects that we've been discussing today. Firstly, how a group of sisters come together, revert sisters, where they identified a need for revert sisters to combat and tackle isolation and feeling loneliness. And alhamdulillah, they supported a Facebook group called Muslimah Convert Connections. You can find on their Facebook page, inshallah, who provide national support across the UK. We've talked about how ways you can get involved, maybe starting up your own fitness class within your own locality, but don't look at it as just a fitness class. It could be also combined to make it a social aspect. So I'd like to thank both Sister Taiba, Sister Malaika, and the guests we had earlier on, Sister Helen. Thank you so much for travelling down into London to participate in our show. It's been absolutely amazing.
And keep up the amazing work.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So viewers, that takes us to the end of our show. Please do join us next week, inshallah, where we will discuss another pressing topic affecting British Muslim on Real Talking. So from me and Sister Shaz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.